Steinhoff took everyone by surprise when it announced that it would be launching an investigation into accounting irregularities. This has prompted the JSE to engage with the furniture retailer on the matter, and we caught up with the exchange's Director of Issuer Regulation, John Burke, a little earlier to get some of the detail on that. He also clarified the JSE's role in the situation, as the boss has been emphatic about the fact that it is in talks with Steinhoff and that it's not running its own independent investigation concurrently. Here's that conversation.
At this moment in time, we have requested information from the sponsor and from Steinhoff, and depending on what comes out of there, it's fluid. We'll see where we go from there.
What information are you after exactly?
The information we are after is what happened between the announcement that they made on Monday and the announcement that they made on today. What came to light? And I want that information.
Have the discussions with Steinhoff already begun? And who exactly are you talking to, with both the CEO and the CFO having resigned with immediate effect?
No, we're talking, as you know, we are dealing with the sponsor. The sponsor is our go-between between us and the company. So all these requests were aimed at the sponsor.
Okay. At what point do you bring in independent input on all of this? Because the question is, what are you hoping to derive from these talks?
Well, we got to see what was wrong first. Obviously, whatever information I've got, I can't share with your listeners, but we are waiting for answers from the company, and as you would have seen, that the company has launched their own independent investigation. They've asked from the press statement, they've asked PwC to conduct an independent investigation.
According to regulations, when would Steinhoff have to release its audited results by, and failing to do so, would its shares then be suspended?
Yes, a little bit of an issue here. As you know, that Steinhoff is primarily listed in Frankfurt. Mm-hmm. So what we usually do, we will follow the home exchange's regulations. Our rule says that 3 months after your year end, you must release your financial statements. Otherwise, we will warn you, and it could lead to a suspension. In Frankfurt, I understand that they've got 4 months after their year end. So that makes it end of January. Ours would have been end of December.
Okay, so we wait for that to come to the fore. Of course, we've got, John, 2 top 40 companies now under the spotlight with clouds hanging over them. It's got to have been devastating to both confidence and reputation. Had you been warned about, the shenanigans at Steinhoff in the run-up to all of this? Because this has not come as a surprise to some out there.
No, obviously we have not been warned on this. We would have taken steps if we were warned. If we had any information, we would have acted immediately. So no, and obviously it's devastating to the company, it's devastating to the JSE, and it's devastating to South Africa, because a lot of people have lost a lot of money today.
Well, that was the JSE's Director of Issuer Regulation, John Burke. Let's get some investor perspective now. And joining us on the line is Pierre Verster from Fairtree Capital. Jean-Pierre, thanks so much for your time this evening. So you've made it known that you've been short Steinhoff. What were the red flags for you?
Hi, Alicia. There's been a number of issues regarding Steinhoff that came to light in the public domain the last while. The latest one, obviously, is the resignation of Marcus Jooste overnight. But before that, we had the German tax authorities looking into the tax affairs of Steinhoff. We had the Dutch commercial court looking into a joint venture disagreement between Steinhoff and one of their partners. And then one can also find on the share databases of a country like Switzerland the existence of off-balance sheet entities, which Steinhoff deals with previously regarding the selling of brands for royalty tax purposes and the selling of units such as the JD Group book and the Capfin book. And all of these issues just were a number of red flags that were raised when one took a closer look.
Well, it's all really come to the fore today, Jean-Pierre. Do you agree with the Viceroy report that's been released that Steinhoff is uninvestable right now?
I had a look at the Viceroy report and it just confirmed our own suspicions. So unfortunately, there's nothing in that report which I disagree with. And it paints paints quite a bleak picture regarding what is going on in Steinhoff. And therefore, investors should be very cautious, and one can understand, in light of that report, why the share price reacted so drastically today and the last few days.
Do you take it as far as saying that this is South Africa's Enron?
Well, it's still to be seen. Steinhoff does have a lot of debt, more than 100 billion rand of debt. But it also has significant stakes in listed companies such as Steinhoff Africa Retail, the PSG Group, and COP. And if they work quickly to address the concerns regarding the balance sheet, they could still get through this and exist as a company. But they will need to work very carefully to do that. So we need to wait and see. But the existence of off-balance sheet entities, unfortunately, is similar in Steinhoff's case to some other cases like the one you mentioned.
So let's get into some of the detail on that, Jean-Pierre. I mean, can you in a nutshell explain, to our viewers why the likes of a PSG, a Brait, have come under pressure? Because it's specifically that balance sheet risk that's the key point of contention, right?
Correct. So some of these other companies, these allegations have nothing to do with them, but Steinhoff have got shareholding in these companies. So if the pressure on Steinhoff intensifies, Steinhoff might be a forced seller of their other assets, including these shares of these other companies. And that is why these other companies have seen pressure as investors have positioned themselves to say that there will be a lot of shares coming onto the market as Steinhoff becomes a forced seller of Star shares, Cup shares, PSG shares, and Jooste in his personal capacity might be forced to sell Brait shares, Invicta shares, Tradehold shares, Stellar Capital shares, because we know he's quite leveraged in his Steinhoff position after the previous share placement with the acquisition of mattress firm. He pledged a large number of shares and took on debt to buy even more Steinhoff shares at a much higher price.
So amidst it all then, I mean, what is the role Jooste plays amidst all of this? Because he could be, of course, just as implicated as Marcus Jooste.
Yes, unfortunately, that is a very good question that we wait to be answered. So with the involvement of PwC as an independent party to assist Deloitte, the long-standing auditors of Steinhoff, one would hope that they would give us a firmer view of exactly how many people, whether on the board or in the management, knew what was going on and knew the consequences of the actions that were taken. This could include Jooste or not. But at this stage, I think there are more questions than answers, and the PwC report and investigation will hopefully shed more light on that.
Amidst those questions is why so many investors have been duped by Steinhoff. Not only investors, but even, the German Deutsche Börse seemingly hoodwinked by the company, Jean-Pierre.
Well, it's a tough one. A lot of this information was in the public domain, but it was very difficult to find. And Steinhoff is a very complicated business that has been very active on the M&A front. And when a business makes a lot of acquisitions, it's very difficult to see like for like what's happening on the income statement and on the balance sheet. So it's maybe a bit harsh to say that investors were duped. But definitely with new information that came alight today, we just don't know what that information is, it does seem that investors were led a bit astray, yes.
Well, let's leave it there. Jean-Pierre, thanks so much for having joined us on the line this evening. Pierre Verster is with Fairtree Capital.